This is the Frat House Sports Show. And now, for this week's completely different and often humorous take on everything sports, here are Frat House Mike, Uncle Mark, and Sidekick.
Yes, indeedy. Welcome back to our third annual NFL preseason roundtable program. Hard to believe, gentlemen. I can't. Third. One of our programs that we love doing right here from the Frat House. Unfortunately, no Sidekick today. He, unfortunately, had to work. Yeah. But feels very, very badly. I know he does because he loves doing this program. Uncle Mark over here. We got Brandon, always with us on our roundtable programs. Sammy making his annual appearance here at the Frat House to talk a little football.
And talk a little funny, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, we got that for sure.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Over in the corner, we've got our timekeepers, and we're going to be talking, just about a few little things going on in just football. That's it. That's all we're going to be talking. And they're going to be keeping track of our time, and every once in a while you'll hear the horn go off, and that'll tell us, well, just keep talking. That's what that's all about. Just keep going. But no, we're supposed to cut it off at that point, and we'll try to do so. We put out a couple of topics here this year, and let me kick it off with the one, Brandon, that you and I had talked about a little bit, particularly in light of the fact that, well, we're all fantasy players here, and thinking about the fantasy issue, the quarterback situation in the NFL. We've got a lot of young ones. We saw that last year, really displayed in the Super Bowl. You got Russell Wilson out there in the West. You got Colin Kaepernick out there in the NFC West. Now we've got Johnny Manziel on the horizon. You've got Andrew Luck getting so much attention. But then you've got Peyton Manning, you've got Tom Brady, and you and I have actually both sat and said, is it possible, Brady I think is 37 this year, or will be when the season begins. Could we be looking at the final year, the final days of these two quarterbacks who, real icons, let's get it straight, and then you've got the younger guys coming up. Could these young guys ever come anywhere near?
Possibly. I think with Peyton Manning and Tom Brady, we're probably getting towards the twilight. Probably more so Peyton. Unfortunately, he is a little older, and he had the neck issues. Tom Brady's been pretty healthy. He had an ACL one year, but for the most part, he's been pretty healthy. So we might have a little extension of his career. It's going to be a lot on the Patriots coaching staff to keep him healthy, make sure the offensive line keeps him from getting knocked down, etc. But the young guys coming up, all kinds of potential. They're a little different breed of quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, Russell Wilson, Colin Kaepernick, a lot of the guys you were mentioning there, they're kind of different, more mobile, different kind of quarterback than Brady and Manning. Andrew Luck, I think, falls more in that mold, and certainly, to me, looks to be the most polished drop-back quarterback of the young ones for right now. But yeah, it's definitely changing. Being
the Brett Favre fan that you are, what do you make of this new breed of quarterback?
I think it's a totally different breed from what you're seeing now. More not so much stay in the pocket quarterback. It's more scramblers, more short passing quarterbacks. And as for, you were saying Tom Brady, he's in the twilight. I don't think he goes out for another 2 to 3 seasons. They don't have a clear successor.
Wow.
To him.
Well, we're going to talk about that. That's coming up on one of my comments.
Peyton Manning, I agree with what Brandon said. He's definitely in his twilight. He's further along than Brady is. And again, do they have a clear successor for him?
Of the young quarterbacks that we've seen, and again, we've been exposed to in the past couple of seasons, we've been exposed to Kaepernick and Russell Wilson, Andrew Luck. Uncle Mark, are any of those, because I'm going to be perfectly blunt, I kind of feel that Kaepernick in particular of those, and maybe Andrew Luck, I think are a little bit overrated. What's your sense on some of those? Am I...
Well, I think they're all going to find their place eventually, but let's not overlook some obvious replacements, in like Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, you know, even if some of these elites that we've talked about may be close to hanging it up, I think the NFL, while it is an evolving game, is still going to fall back probably for 2 or 3 more years on the traditional winning style of quarterback. While some of these other guys, including a Geno Smith, kind of develop and take their place. But you know, I'll be honest with you, there's no reason necessarily to believe that Manning is done. I don't think there's any reason to necessarily believe Brady is done. John Fox has vested reason to want to keep him there. I think Belichick has vested reason to want to keep him there. And listen, McCarthy's hoping that Aaron Rodgers returns. You know, nobody floundered more than that poor squad out there in NFC North without him all year.
What about Nick Foles here in Philadelphia? Was that a flash in the pan?
Question mark.
I'll tell you, the touchdown interception ratio was certainly impressive.
Yeah. Yes, it really was.
Not making mistakes is going to get you a long way in the NFL.
He was a fantasy boom.
Yeah. Was that luck though, or
I think it was more, I don't want to say luck, but timing. He had a good receiving core. And remember, they took away Deshaun Jackson. They released Deshaun Jackson. That takes away one of his major weapons. And then you have Riley Cooper. Good season.
But they get Macklin back.
Yeah, and that's what they're
Macklin's not.
Macklin may or may not have what it takes to return.
I've actually read a report. Macklin feels he's actually faster after this ACL surgery than he was prior to it.
You take away Jackson, he doesn't have that deep threat. Like I mean, Riley Cooper's no Deshaun Jackson.
Right.
Macklin's no Deshaun Jackson.
And the reason, I mean, there's a lot of people that said that, look, Cooper had the good year that he did because Jackson was spreading the field.
Right.
So, you know, can you anticipate that, I forget how many receptions Cooper had, 46 or something ridiculous.
Don't forget about LaShawn McCoy. I mean, he led the NFL in rushing. I mean, you got the most potent rushing attack in the game.
And we got Sproles. You got Sproles, too.
Well, Sproles is going to work nicely with Kelly's offense, and you got to remember Kelly did make use of his tight ends. So, you know, that's another, like, slot receiver.
Zach Ertz is one that they're looking to.
Exactly right. So while they may not have the deep threat initially going in, the Eagles actually, I think, have a pretty good chance to continue to spread the field even without a D-shot.
I agree, but there's one other thing that Nick Foles had in his favor last year that he doesn't have this year. There was no time to study him early on. And now they have tape on him.
That's true, but as the season went, he still remained pretty consistent.
Right, but defenses can pick up on him now a little better, I think. I'm not saying he's a flash in the pan, but he's going to have to overcome some things to prove that he's an elite quarterback.
I think that's been something that's been brought up a lot. And it's not just Foles, it's also that whole Chip Kelly scheme that we're talking about. Real quick, before we run out of time, Manziel. This situation up in Cleveland, I mean, you know, look, it's Tim Tebow-esque all over again. Immediately the spotlight is on. I mean, he can't make a move without everybody, you know, knowing exactly what's going on. What's our gut feeling here? You know, I frankly think I think he's going to see some time on the field for sure. It's very possible he could be starting after week 3 or 4.
I agree with you. I just think that he needs to stop being an off-field distraction. It's kind of hard because he is Johnny Manziel, and like you said, he can't move without somebody knowing what he's doing. I think he'll start before week 3 or 4. I think maybe he's a second-week starter.
Okay, wow.
But I think he has to prove himself on the field. Prove, okay, he's worth all the flash and the hype. You know, okay, the distractions off the field are one thing. This is what I can do on the field. I think he just has to prove himself.
Right now, I know you follow PFT closely. Right now, Hoyer is the starter, right?
Yes, and Brian Hoyer, I was kind of surprised when he was, you know, let go by the Patriots that nobody else gave him a shot. They did pick him up in Cleveland, and he did play well.
Yeah.
Had an ACL injury. He's ready to go. He's not going to be one to want to give up the job. I know that. Manziel, I don't know.
Is there any tension between the two that you've read?
Not that I've read, not yet. But we haven't had camp start yet. I think they'll be arguing over, you know, reps, that kind of thing once it gets going possibly. But Manziel needs to really watch what he's doing. He's too high profile. You know, they picture him rolling up dollar bills in bathrooms. You know, that's just not
Johnny
a good
8 Ball?
Yeah, Johnny 8 Ball.
I think the bigger story, though, out there is the loss of Josh Gordon. Is that who it is, you know, for the year? I think, you know, once again, you know, they score a big PR move in signing Johnny Football, and then they lose this guy to a year. This was their hope. One of their wide receiving hopes was going to be Josh Gordon all at once. He's out for the year. So Cleveland can't get better for worse. I mean, it's amazing.
All right. All right, well, there you go. A little bit of chit chat we had there. Thank you very much. That's what I was waiting on.
Right on time.
Yeah, right. Look at that. We got that one. How did we do that? I don't think we could do it twice. It's impossible.
Clock management. That's what it's about.
Time management.
Seriously, nobody's been talking Andy Reid lately.
Oh, we'll get there.
We're going to talk Andy Reid. How about we do that right now? How about we talk coaches? Because, well, Uncle Mark provided this to us the other day. I had heard about it on many of the talk radio programs that I listened to, and that was that the NFL.com put together their preseason power rankings of coaches. An exercise in complete nonsense, in my opinion.
I think we're desperate to power rank everything. We're going to power rank everything.
This is the most ludicrous thing I've ever.
They should have just done cheerleaders. Now that's one for sidekick.
There's
one for sidekick.
Yeah.
I mean, they should have done that because I think we would have gleaned more information.
Listen, here is anybody surprised by this? Power rankings. Number 1, Bill Belichick. Number 2, Sean Payton. Number 3, Jim Harbaugh. How about number 4, John Harbaugh? Huh? How the hell did
Andy Reid is in the top 10?
Number 5.
They put Andy Reid in the top 10.
I think Pete Carroll, the Super Bowl winning coach, being in the bottom half of the top 10, like
Pete
8
Carroll's
or 9.
7.
Yeah, 6 or 7.
7.
Right?
That's just that's not fair.
Tom Coughlin is on the hot seat. Are you kidding me? He may not make it through the season, and he's number 5.
Jeff Fisher of the Rams is 12, and I think he's regarded as one of the better minds in football.
He is, but
so obviously they're not. I don't understand the criteria for
Yeah, I'm not sure either. See, are they ranking them by their squad that they're coaching now? Because quite frankly, I think Lovie Smith deserves to be like in the top 15, not buried in the back end.
Well,
of
he's
the
14.
30s.
He's 14.
Well,
Lovie Smith was 14.
He actually could come forward. I mean, I think he's being judged somewhat by the fact he's with Tampa Bay, and they don't know what's going to happen out there.
How the hell does Rex Ryan get 16, but Chip Kelly's 18?
I want to know. I want to know how Mike Smith of the Falcons, after that dreadful year, is 11.
Yeah,
ahead of Lovie Smith.
Well,
Jeff Fisher.
Yeah, but I can see that because Mike Smith had a number of really good seasons in a row.
But he had
winning seasons. Last year was terrible.
Season last year.
Last year was terrible. All right, and it didn't help that your quarterback had an off year. All right, so I don't completely blame all of the Atlanta Falcons' problems I don't lay them right at Mike Smith's feet, because I think he's shown in years past he's got the certainly the capability, but. I think it's a little bit unfair, too. I mean, Mike Pettine, 31. This guy really hasn't even had a chance to show us what he's capable of. And frankly, I like Mike Pettine. I think he's going to do well up there at Cleveland, so long as he can keep everything under control over there.
Right.
And that kind of goes to another situation which we're going to bring up shortly, and that is whether coaches should be policemen or not. But
Jay Gruden out there in the skins has some work cut out for him, right? Because that Shanahan's nonsense that went on last year and RG3, and there was there's been a lot of nonsense with the Redskins. Can we call them that? I don't know if that's. Can we have to call them something else?
I think the networks are.
But the Washington,
it's your
that
choice.
Washington football team.
Yeah.
We're going to see what
Native
Jay Gruden
American.
can do.
He has a lot of work. Mark's right. As far as the Redskins' chemistry in that locker room, they need to reestablish a
cohesiveness or something,
camaraderie of some sort, and not be. I think it was very contentious, as Mark was leading to last year with Shanahan.
Yeah,
Shanahan was clearly leveraging to get.
They got
fired.
nasty, and it was a father-son duo. I mean, I don't think either one or both. They were both involved in kind of ripping things at the seams.
Everybody's right. They got a lot of work to do in Washington. A lot of work to do to be a cohesive unit.
Shanahan clearly had a plan to get fired so he could get paid twice, because now I hear he's going to be a co-host on a Fox broadcast team. So he's
what sport is he going to co-host?
No. He's going to do games. He's going to do games.
Oh, football games? Apparently. Really? Soccer?
World Cup.
See,
right.
His job, Gruden's job, will be made a heck of a lot easier if we could see the RG3 that we saw from 2 seasons ago.
Absolutely. And
I think that in many respects was a lot of the problems with Washington last year.
Yes, I agree. I think you're going to see more of the RG3 that you used to see. He's healthier. He's not rehabbing this all season. He can work with Jay Gruden and get the scheme down.
Well, he's got a Deshaun to throw to.
Yeah,
he's got a healthy Alfred Morris.
But
I mean, they've got pieces in place.
Josh Reed, the tight end, was pretty good when he was not hurt last year.
Right.
But Deshaun coming in there again.
Yep.
cohesive unit, and Deshaun Jackson's been a big distraction.
He was in Philadelphia.
In Philadelphia, was he going to do the same thing when he gets there? Is he going to start problems and make,
Well, he did want the number. That was funny.
Though, there have been conflicting reports about that in the Philadelphia region, even whether he was or whether he wasn't. It was evident that back when T.O. was in Philadelphia, that was a problem the very last season.
But
you're getting conflicting reports over Deshaun Jackson in Philadelphia. Some say it was, some say it wasn't. I don't know. I never had an issue personally with the guy. I thought,
No, I agree with you. I never had a problem with him when he was here.
Right.
I think he was a read guy, and I think he wasn't a chip guy, and I think that's what it came down to.
I agree.
I think that's exactly how it broke down.
Right on the head.
That was it.
I don't think he's going to be an issue right away in Washington.
I don't either.
They brought him in to be number
right
one.
Away, though. You said right away.
But here's the thing. He was brought in to be the number one. So, as long as the coaching regime stays the same and, he's their number one deep threat, he's going to be happy. He's going to get the deep ball. And we all seen RG3 has a cannon of an arm.
Yes.
Yeah,
so,
man.
He's not going to overthrow Deshaun Jackson.
Right.
I mean, or under, they'll be able to make some deep.
I think that's a good one too.
So I don't think he's going to be an issue. He probably is playing with a little chip on his shoulder too.
Still afraid to go across the middle though.
Well,
we'll see.
Yeah, it's going to make for an interesting situation in the NFC East. A lot of people that I listen to around right here in this region are immediately discounting the Washington Redskins, and I think that that's a mistake.
I agree with you.
I think you can discount if you want to, and we'll get into that one later on into the show here too, when we start talking about the different divisions and where we think they're going to come down. You can discount, I think, in my opinion, Dallas. You can discount, I think, possibly the Giants, but I wouldn't discount the Washington Redskins. Even with a new coach. Of the new coaches coming in real quick, anybody jumping off the page at anybody?
Be interesting to see what O'Brien does.
I think it's going to be interesting to see what Lovie Smith does down in Tampa Bay.
Well, I agree. I think he's got, obviously, but, Lovie Smith can be a winner. We're not sure about O'Brien. What's he got? The Texans, right?
Yeah.
That's a whole lot of hurt.
They have no clear plan at quarterback in Houston.
Right.
Their star player, receivers holding out, potentially wants to be traded. They're in total disarray. Arian Foster can't stay on the field. Their second running back was a free agent, left and got a big contract somewhere else. He's gone, so they're a disaster.
Who's on the hottest seat? Dennis Allen?
I don't know if the Raiders are. It's hard to say because they're kind of still in the ownership transition
the Raiders
to the kid.
Coaches like people change their socks.
Well, that was
Dennis Allen's been what? That's his third year.
Yeah, but still, I mean, they do 3 years is a long time in Raider timeline.
To me, he's shown absolutely nothing.
They just drafted a new quarterback.
Well, they had Terrell Pryor last year, right?
Oh, God. They did draft one of the new guys, and he's going to take a year.
They drafted out of this class?
Yeah.
Listen, I don't have much to say about this class of quarterbacks.
Well, I think Rex Ryan, in spite of what anybody wants to believe, still remains on a hot seat.
The hot seat?
I think right now Tom
Coughlin has got to be.
Right. Tomlinson in Pittsburgh.
Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, Tomlin in Pittsburgh. I think he too.
They're not very quick to pull the trigger, but
no, they're not.
A couple seasons of not making the playoffs might be enough to get that done.
Yeah, you're right.
Mark might be onto something. I hadn't really thought about that, but they have not looked good, and Roethlisberger's certainly not on the upswing.
No,
that team could be in trouble.
Yep. Let's stick with quarterbacks for a second. Because again, Uncle Mark sent us over a very, very interesting article. I hope everybody had a chance to read it, where they highlighted Ron Rivera from, Tennessee, right?
Right. Yep.
And Carolina. I'm sorry.
That's it.
Yeah.
And the whole concept of the article was surrounding this idea that head coaches had to take more of a proactive role of what their player personnel were doing, not only on the field but off the field. Some of this, as mentioned in the article, coming out of this whole situation in Miami between Richie Incognito and Jonathan Martin. I think some of it also coming about as a result of the situation with Aaron Hernandez in New England. There have been some coaches, and they indicated right in the article, there were some coaches that had an absolute abhorrence to the concept of even walking into the locker room, that it was not their place. That's not where coaches belong, that coaches should stay out of there. That's for the players only. Throw it out there. It seems to me that Rivera's right on target. He says absolutely not. It's our locker room.
Well, go ahead. No, go ahead.
It's hard to explain. I mean, certain coaches you can see clearly have control over their franchise, like Belichick. Nobody will talk about injuries. Nobody will
we're going to talk about Belichick in a moment.
I know what's coming. But anyway, other coaches are more loose, and it's a friendly camp type attitude. Which works better? It's hard to say. I think a lot depends on your players' makeup. I mean, you can't argue with Belichick's record. Mm-hmm. You know, the players seeing every star player that comes there seems to love to want to play there. You know, other guys, Andy Reid was a little looser.
I was going to say, we had Andy Reid, here for 14 years. Yeah. And I think in the last 2 years of his time here in Philadelphia, some of the complaint was the guy had lost complete control of the locker room.
Yeah.
Well, and that's not to say that he didn't at one point or another, have control of it. It's somewhere along the line he lost control of it. Go ahead.
Ron Rivera played the game.
Yes.
Okay, somebody like Philbin never played the game, okay, at the professional level. Mm-hmm. And I think you have a different mindset. Some want to manage, and some understand how to be a player coach.
Right.
And I think because of all of the, personal conduct that the NFL is trying to instill into players, I think it makes a lot of sense, because we're dealing with a union versus management, that the management walk in and see what's going on.
I don't have a problem with it.
I don't really have a problem with it either.
I would look at it this way. When you're in the team's facility, you're practicing, mini camps, training camp, game time, you're on company time.
It's work, right?
Yeah. So I think the coaches should take a hand in making sure, that take control of their team. When these guys are off the field, okay, yeah, they should behave like adults. We know most of them don't. A lot of them don't. But they're grown men. If you're a head coach of a team,
how much control do I really have?
You're going to have to sit and call, make sure everybody's in bed at 9 o'clock.
If you've got a head case, I don't think any head coach can handle it. Right. I agree with you. But if there's truly a head case in your locker room, but I found it interesting that Reid would be quoted as saying, "Oh, listen, this is what I did," because you've just said, and I tend to agree. He had lost control of his own locker room, but now he's in Kansas City, riding the crest of a pretty good season last year with a team he didn't build, but okay. And he's saying, well, I established a leadership council, and we meet every Wednesday, and no matter what happens, it's okay. You can tell us what you really think. A little double speak there from Coach Reid, maybe. We'll see. But I think essentially that's right.
I also think that if you have control of your team on, as I said, company time, when these guys are off company time, maybe they'll think a little more and say, okay, maybe I should conduct myself in a way, excuse me, that's reflective of who I am as a teammate, player, the organization I represent, instead of going out and being ridiculous.
This goes to the public relations, Brandon. Yes,
absolutely.
It's public relations, not just for the team, but for NFL.
We live in. They gotta be aware of the fact that everybody's watching them.
Yeah.
Especially Johnny Manziel. He's a perfect example.
Exactly.
This guy's not even taken an NFL snap yet, and he's already got more ink.
Well, you know what's interesting, though?
Anybody on crazy stuff.
Cleveland obviously
tried to rein him in.
I'm sure that they've recognized that, boy, this thing could be a real loose cannon here. I'm sure that they've recognized that. But what I find really interesting about it as well is that we as fans don't need to be poked by the NFL or by media to say, behave yourself as an adult. We're the ones actually saying it. We're the ones that are castigating Manziel. Many of us saying, something, you dumb schmuck, get your head out of your behind and be a professional about it. So we really don't need any fanning of the flame.
True.
You understand what I'm saying?
No, you're absolutely right. But, as I think Sammy was getting at, he should be intelligent and mature enough to recognize, that not to put myself in bad situations. Going to Vegas and, you know, rolling dollar bills up in the bathroom, you're going to get splashed all over the headlines. Everybody has a camera phone.
Yeah. You read a report of one of these guys that does something, and how many times you say, oh, God, what an idiot.
What an idiot, exactly.
You know, and it's, these guys should know better. And like you said, in this day and age, there's always a camera phone, there's always something. Somebody's looking to take that picture and get paid for it. So maybe you might not have been doing anything wrong, but you roll up a dollar bill like Johnny Manziel, somebody snaps a picture, that picture's everywhere. You should know better. These guys can't, you know, do what they do and think they're going to get away with it.
Maybe the thing to do is in football, if you're an X's and O's coach and you're not one to necessarily want to, you know, put yourself in that, you almost need like a bench coach, like they have in baseball, and you assign that person the job of being policeman.
Head babysitter.
Yeah.
You know, head coach for a head case. I don't know. You know, you're going to have them. You're going to have them. These guys want to shoot themselves in the foot. NFL's mantra is next man up.
Yeah.
So I guess what they've got to do is have the teeth to be the tiger to say that's the way it is.
But,
you know,
again, in this day and age, nothing is, like you said, everything is picture phones, this, that, and the other thing. It's not like years ago, and I hate to get off topic from football to baseball, but
no.
Mickey Mantle's off-field antics were always covered up. And it came out years later.
Yep.
A lot of those guys, that's over. And these guys should know that, you know. And coaches should be a little more hands-on in their, when you're on company time, this is how I expect you to act, and think about that when you're not.
Code of conduct sort of thing.
Code of conduct.
I think they all have them too, don't they, Brendan?
I would imagine.
Yeah. What about this situation with Belichick that broke out this past week? Apparently 33 pages worth of text messages that went back and forth between he and Aaron Hernandez.
Well,
and we're talking about policemen. You know, I can't imagine that Belichick was saying, "Hey, now, Aaron, you know, listen, on that, on that run route you had the other day, well, you blew it. See, buddy, you missed your cover over here. You need it." I don't think that's what he was probably texting. What do you think?
No, I think what they were texting, actually, what I read, I kind of read between the lines in some of it. They released a statement saying it was 34 messages, not 33 pages.
Yeah, I agree. I had a little issue with how much.
Yeah, it was from like December to the following May, and apparently that was about the time there was a civil suit against Hernandez.
From the folks in Florida, from the DA in Florida.
Yeah, from a separate shooting in Florida that he never got convicted of criminally. And I think a lot of that, and that was about the time they were negotiating his contract, so some of that could have been tied to that off-field activity at the time. But what the people prosecuting him now are curious as to, is there anything in there of admissions of guilt back and forth, or info to these other cases?
Some of the other part of it, though, that goes to it is that there is supposed to be a no contact rule between, for a period of time
for
in the off season.
Purpose.
Yeah, but at the same time, how does it, it kind of crosses over, witnesses talking outside before they go into the courthouse to, discuss what they're going to testify to.
I hear you. That's why I think
there's a little gray area there, too, as far as, well, if you're going to need somebody to mentor to, maybe your head coach isn't that guy when you're not in season. Maybe you should mentor with somebody else.
The bench coach concept. But what I find interesting is we're talking about whether coaches should in fact be policemen or not, and it's very possible, albeit we're kind of speculating that perhaps maybe Belichick was too good a policeman in this particular case.
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, there's a lot of information the Patriots have that the prosecution team's asking for, like draft notes, scouting reports of the era, and they don't want to give any of it up because they feel it's proprietary information. I don't know that there's anything incriminating against Hernandez or possibly Belichick within the text messages. I don't know, but I don't know how that's going to work out. But I don't think. I think what Mark brought up there is a good point. I mean, this offseason, didn't Peyton Manning and his coach go to a game in Alabama, and then all of a sudden they're saying, well, that's too much contact. You can't have that. You can't go visit Nick Saban.
Well, I was going to say that had something to do with the Saban connection.
Yeah,
right.
So, so it may be a bit overblown.
Fuzzy areas.
Gray area.
Right, really fuzzy area.
Well, I think we forgive it with Peyton because, let's get it straight, he is a player coach.
Yeah. Aaron Hernandez, what an idiot. Every time I see it, what an idiot.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah. Guy had the whole world in his hands.
Yeah, buddy.
You know, he really, you know, good point too. I mean, frankly, even when I see his image anymore, it just, I kind of like,
Yeah.
it gives, you know,
Just gets worse and worse
yeah,
for him.
it gives me the woolies or something.
What an idiot.
But isn't that the line you just said that we all use anyhow? It's what an idiot.
What an idiot.
Interesting story that I threw out to everybody here on the panel from topbet.com. 5 compelling stories to watch as we go through training camp, and that's where we are right now. We're in training camps. We're approaching preseason games that'll be coming up shortly. That is, at least by the time you'll get to see this. And a couple of them I want to throw out there. I found 4 out of 5 of them rather compelling. We talked about the number 2, which was Tom Brady's clock ticking, so we can leave that one alone. But the first one that they brought up was the Minnesota Vikings quarterback job being wide open. And while I might say yes, that's probably true, I don't know if it's the most compelling quarterback story. I frankly think that the Cleveland one we were just talking about, I think, is a compelling story. Weigh in.
I don't think anybody cares about Minnesota, to be honest with you. Like you said, it's not, well, they do, but they don't. It's not a compelling, like you said, not compelling story.
Right.
It's you know, Cleveland is much better. Again, because of Johnny Manziel.
It's the hype.
They have the star. That's it.
Right.
Not to take anything about away Minnesota, but when you take Minnesota and who's going to be quarterback there, nobody seems to really, okay, what? Then look, Cleveland. Oh, let's look over there. Johnny Football. And that's it. It's just the star versus, okay, who's going to start? Who really cares? I mean, it's, you know.
Well, I think I think they're obviously what we're talking about here is the, you know, who's actually going to be the quarterback. You know, the battle that might be going on in training camp.
Training camp,
right?
Okay.
So, because who do we have up there?
Matt Castle is probably number 1.
Right.
Yeah. Christian Ponder is on the way out because he could never develop, and Blake Bortles, I believe, was there.
Yeah, number 3?
Yeah, was there.
Is it Blake Bortles?
I'm not quite sure.
I think he's right.
Where is Bridgewater?
Oh,
going?
yeah, it's Teddy Bridgewater.
That's right.
Right?
Okay.
And let's not forget, you got Mike Zimmer. He's unknown territory up there. He's bringing in a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'll be honest with you. I kind of like Minnesota as a dark horse up there in that division. I think they're going to make noise, and it might take them a couple of weeks to finally settle in, but I think I like Bridgewater. I like Zimmer. I think
you've been high on Bridgewater.
I think we might all sit back about 4 or 5 weeks from now and say, "Wow, you know, not
words.
For nothing." Yeah.
Well,
maybe.
you know, we were just talking about, you know, do we see Manziel starting at some point? Bridgewater might be a perfect example, huh?
You're right.
And we don't know, because I think that's probably what they're talking about in this particular case. Bridgewater could win the job outright.
He could.
So
I mean, look at that division as Mark brought up. I mean, you got the Chicago Bears. Cutler's kind of a...
Oh, boy, he got hurt last year, and Tressman? Question mark for me. He remains a question mark. 8-8. I don't think he proved anything, so and, Chicago.
Right.
And
Detroit.
Detroit.
He's got that guy, you know, he had an off season too. He needs to...
Caldwell.
Yeah.
Jim Caldwell's a new coach, but I'm talking about the quarterback.
Not Stafford.
Stafford needs to, you know, rebound. He had a horrible season.
Yeah. I think he will. That's just my gut feeling on that one.
But Mark could be right, though. I mean, the Vikings have a lot of pieces. They got Peterson, Adrian Peterson.
Listen, nobody's really expecting much.
It's just a matter of putting the puzzle together.
Quietly, they could.
Cordell Patterson
you got to do something.
Awesome was a receiver.
How old is Peterson at this point? You know, we're talking about quarterbacks on the downside. This is a running back, dude.
He could be.
You gotta think this guy's only got another season, 2, 3.
You're probably right. You're probably right, but he's still probably in the at least back half of his prime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, you know, if they get a decent spark at quarterback, they got a good young receiver in Cordell Patterson. He looked awesome, and he was a great punt returner, I believe.
Yeah.
He had a couple touchdowns on special teams, so
be interesting to see.
That could be a team.
Yeah, it might be.
One of the other things that they mentioned, and you and I were talking about it a little bit yesterday, Jimmy Garoppolo over with the Patriots.
The successor.
And I had said to you, you know, I'm a college football guy.
He comes from a long line of successors with that.
No kidding.
That's what I said earlier. He has no clear success.
Ryan Mallett's the last one to.
Well, I follow college football, and I had said to you yesterday, Garoppolo was one of those kinds of, and again, we know this. Here's what we did know about this class. Bad quarterback class. All right, we knew that. Okay. Garoppolo was one of these kinds of guys who came out of nowhere in the final few days right before the draft, and all of a sudden you're hearing, Jimmy Garoppolo, yes, that's the guy, yeah, that's it. And so the Patriots drafted him, I think, with like the 68th. It was late second round. And almost immediately, you're hearing, oh, Belichick's got his guy. This is the guy he wanted. He's gonna be transforming him into the next Tom Brady. Seriously?
This is the fourth young quarterback.
We've heard that before.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. We're good. We're good. And then, yeah, okay, nothing happens.
This is the fourth young quarterback, and they all go through the 3-year contract, and they either end up somewhere else like Brian Hoyer, Ryan Mallett. Everybody thought for sure was getting traded to the Texans.
Right.
Still may.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't know. There was no after that.
And the
drafting,
Texans would be a good spot for him, in my opinion. He's going to get playing time.
O'Brien drafted him. He was the O coordinator for the Patriots when they drafted him. So that's why everybody made that.
I can't help but laugh because we got a successor for Brady. No, you don't.
No, Brady was never anybody's successor. He came in because of injury and lit it up. So.
I know you follow the Patriots very, very closely. Again, you're a big PFT follower. You're on it every single day. What's the word on Garoppolo?
No, I don't think there is a word yet. I mean, everything so far is he's, doing all the right stuff, going to camp, looking decent. And the mini camps, we'll see. Training camp's going to start. I think if he has a decent enough training camp, you may see Mallett get traded. If not, maybe they'll keep all three. Belichick doesn't like 3 quarterbacks. He don't like tying up that roster spot.
Yeah, New England.
No, he likes tight ends.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's what he likes to stockpile.
New England preseason might be interesting to watch, just if for no other reason than Garoppolo to see.
Or Mallett.
Yeah.
they might showcase
him a lot
to
try to get him.
If they have confidence that Garoppolo can run with it,
right. I'm not even going to start with you on the Dolphins. I'm not going to start with the Dolphins. I'll go to someplace else for the Dolphins because I know I can't get an unbiased opinion on this one. Dolphins' offense to improve was one of the things that came out of this article. And I sat there kind of scratching my head and going, okay, yeah, you've cleaned up some messes with Richie Incognito and Jonathan Martin, and maybe that was a little bit of a distraction. But at the same time, as much as I have been a fan of Ryan Tannehill, I don't know if the guy is really what's going to take that offense forward. Thoughts on Dolphins improving?
I tend to agree with
Crickets.
you. No, what can you say?
I'm sorry.
I mean, what can you say?
I apologize.
Crickets, just like their games. I mean,
Well, they signed Mike Wallace for a lot of money 2 years ago. That didn't work out. They're still arguing. They're saying he may end up returning kicks. You don't sign a top-tier receiver to return kicks.
Yeah.
So that franchise needs to figure it out. They get, obviously I'm a Patriots fan, so I'm not going to like the Dolphins, but
I'm not saying I agreed with the article. I'm saying I was scratching my head.
They're all over the place. They're all over the board. They have no clear path, no direction. The owner's clueless.
I'm just going to stick with crickets.
They burn through.
Crickets.
Burn
I'm
through
not
executives.
sold on coach. I'm not sold on
I'm not sold on football.
Executives and coaches.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, their future seems to ride on Tannehill, and that's a real thin ice to skate on.
I wish I had Sidekick here because the final one, and I want to get through this because we already had the alarm, but I wish I had Sidekick here because the final one was, is there enough protection for Sam Brady, or Sam Bradford rather, over at the Rams? And the question that I threw out on the outline was, will the Rams O-line be Bradford's downfall? It seems to me Bradford, this is his final year, unless if we don't see something spectacular.
Maybe as a Ram. I think he's shown enough that he's still going to be in the NFL.
Oh, I agree with you there. I think it's a Ram. That's, I guess, I'll couch it that way, right?
And maybe as a starter right away, he might end up having to do the backup role.
But that offensive line just has been horrific.
I agree with you.
I think he could still turn it around. I think that team, if they get everything right, Jeff Fisher's a defensive guy, always been. If they improve the defense this year, and they don't have to score a ton of points.
O-lineman last year in the draft. Last year, not this year. Right. Last year, and it didn't seem to make any difference. Now I know for a fact that they picked up another 1 or 2 in this year's draft. So they keep addressing it, but it doesn't seem to be getting any better.
They need a veteran. They need to pick up a solid.
An anchor.
An anchor. Yeah. And again, I always go the analogy: the quarterback is only as good as his own line. Because if you're not protected, you don't have time to throw the ball.
Bingo.
I've seen it a million times over again with my favorite player, Bradford, which last year in Minnesota got run over repeatedly because he had no O-line. Same thing that you said about Nick Foles earlier. I was thinking that is his O-line going to protect him?
Yeah, there's only one quarterback I can think of recently that's been able to overcome that, and that's Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
In recent seasons, you have an absolutely horrible offensive line and yet be able to be successful. And I'm not saying it was last season, but there were a couple of seasons there in a row where it was really bad.
Yeah, if the O-line's bad, you can't have time to set, you can't have time to throw, you're going to get run over, and that's it.
Well, that NFC West is a tough division, too.
Yeah.
I mean, you take that same team and put them in the South, maybe it'd be a different story for Fisher and company out there.
I don't think.
Yeah, that's
Mark's
a good point.
He's wearing the colors of the Cardinals. They should have been a playoff team in 90% of the year.
I think would have been
last
Rams would have been in there, or at least fighting for a possible
well, the
spot.
Cardinals had a 10-6 record and went home.
Yeah.
So. I mean, they were impressive. I mean, the Cardinals were. That was just impressive.
Yeah.
I don't think they turn it around unless he gets an anchor. They have to, I don't know, free agency, something, somebody off the street, trade. Other than that, I agree. He's not done in the NFL, but he's done as a Ram and, like you said, as a starter for a little while, maybe.
Right.
But they need the O-line. They need to pick up an anchor.
All due respect to Fisher, and we all acknowledge he's a great football mind, but, I mean, apart from real good success with the Titans, what's he done with the Rams?
Well, of all those years,
I mean, really, what has he done?
This is what, 3 or 4?
4, isn't it?
4, I think.
Yeah.
3. It's definitely 3.
Okay, now he's responsible for. I mean, it's not as though he just came in and this isn't my team yet.
No, you're right.
This is his team.
Well, I heard a stat the other day, and I you've got the pad there. Maybe you can check it for me myself, but. Talking about Fisher, one of the things that was thrown out there, when you take a look at all those years he had at Tennessee, and now you combine it with the years that he's had at the Rams, I think we're talking 6 winning seasons. I think that was the number. 6 out of all of the years that you've been talking. So there might be some validity.
That's a tough,
we look at Fisher and we like the guy. We look at him and we think he looks like a likable guy.
I don't have a personal problem with Jeff Fisher. But when when it's time to put up or shut up,
156 wins and 137 losses. So he's just a shade over
50.
500.
Yeah.
50, I mean, 532 is his career winning percentage.
But if they had it broken out by the number of seasons,
I'm looking at it by seasons, and he started with Houston Oilers. And the first 5 seasons, he had 3 8-8s, and the other 2 were losing. Then all of a sudden, the team got good. And they had 13-3, 13-3, 11-5, 12-4.
Oh yeah, they were making postseason.
Right.
They were making postseason. They came within almost a Super Bowl.
Then they had another lull. They were 1 yard away.
Right.
Dick Vermeil's Rams.
They were just about there.
The guy was stretching the ball out, and they stopped him with the clock expired. It was one of the best endings of a Super Bowl I've ever seen.
Yep.
I missed the Oilers.
Yep. All right. Since we're talking divisions and conferences, let's run around real quick because this is our final segment. AFC, NFC predicts, and we've got all of our different, and you can just go talk it however you want. I mean, you don't have to predict on every single one of them, but we've talked a little bit about this Eastern NFC East, which is where we reside.
NFC East
is 9-7 wins the division.
I think, like you said, you can discount Dallas. I really think Dallas is in disarray. You can pretty much discount the Giants just because I think Coughlin's a lame duck. I think he's out after the season.
Yep.
So it's going to come down to Philadelphia and Washington. And I think Philadelphia takes it because they're more cohesive as a unit. They're a year into the system with Chip Kelly.
Right.
Nick Foles, excellent last season. Going to be good this season. Washington needs to get their cohesiveness together, and then there'll be a real threat. I think it was Philadelphia, Washington, Dallas, then the Giants. The Giants finished dead last.
Yeah, I might agree with you.
Eli's just going to throw interception after interception, and then Coughlin's out, and they'll rebuild.
Real quick, Arizona.
Well, here's how
out there in the West.
Here's how
you're
I'm
talking
well,
about
if you want to talk Arizona, we can talk Arizona.
No, we don't. I'm saying the NFC West, though.
Well,
out there in that tough
here's
division.
what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you what I consider to be 2 surprise picks to watch for.
Okay.
On the NFC side, I would say watch those Vikings. I mentioned it earlier. I think they're going to surprise. I think they could win the division for the NFC North. In the AFC, watch for the Colts in the South. I think they're going to surprise people. I think they're going to blow doors off. I think that South was up for grabs last year, but for some butt hurt and some bad luck, watch the Colts this year. Those are my 2 dark horse
Dark
teams.
horses?
Yeah.
I don't know if the Colts would really be considered a dark horse, though.
No, it's hard to say.
Well, no, I mean, in the West, in the East, in the North, I think we could all agree. If we really sat down and said, hey, on the AFC side, who do you like? I think we're all going to pretty much agree.
Probably.
But I think that South is the one where you could say, roll the dice. This one might be fun. And I think in the North, on the NFC side, I think the same thing. Because in the West, it's going to be the Niners. I think it's the Niners and the Seahawks. I think that's exactly how it goes. And I think my team's going to fight with the Rams to
I think the Niners
spot.
outright win the division.
Oh, yeah.
I think the Niners...
Yeah. I
think the Niners will be. I think
13 and 3. I don't think it's impossible.
No, I agree with you.
I don't see
14 and
Seattle
2.
repeating.
I think it's very possible.
I think I always consider the Saints as always in the mix.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I believe it or not, and this is my dark horse, Tampa Bay. Just
maybe.
Well, that's a dark horse for sure.
Not to be like major, division crown, but just to be better. Like people can say, "Wow, look at Tampa Bay."
They actually improved, and
yeah, they're going to improve.
Get them 9-7. Get them, right? Something like that.
You see what I'm saying?
I think that's real possible. They had a solid defensive core, and they played with some ferocity on one side of the ball only.
Now, if they win the division, okay. I mean, then it was
even better.
Yeah,
even better.
Well, if you look at what you guys have been talking about, though, those divisions. I mean, the Vikings, short of the Green Bay Packers, the rest of that division last year was nothing.
It's wide open.
So the Vikings are right there.
Yeah.
Same goes for the Colts. That whole AFC South division last year was.
Dude, that was a crapshoot. Anybody could have had that. Anybody should have had that.
I am gravely concerned we're going to get through this entire show
one time,
and we're never going to bring up the Denver Broncos, and I got to be the one to do it.
Denver Broncos. We're sidekick now with the Peyton Manning love.
That's horse shit.
Oh, no! But, okay, real quick, Denver. They look like the team to beat in the AFC, yes?
Maybe.
Go ahead,
it's hard
AFC
to say.
expert.
You know what? Everybody's waiting for the year where Peyton doesn't have it anymore. He certainly didn't have it in the Super Bowl.
I know you're waiting for it.
Yeah, well, all right, here's the thing. And we've had our spirited debates.
Yes.
Peyton Manning's always been a great regular season quarterback. Where we don't have to bring up his ad nauseum record of failure in the playoffs.
Well, this is.
You don't want to bring that up? I don't think you want.
You want me to? I will. 8 out of his first 12 playoffs ended in a first-round loss. That tells you all you need to know. 75% of the time, you can't even win a game in the playoffs.
At the Super Bowl, it's like you didn't even show up.
Okay, but when you take a look at that season from last year, what an incredible! I mean, look, the guy would be Superman to repeat
you
that.
don't have to
Seriously,
tell me I played you first week of fantasy football.
No, but seriously,
okay?
I somehow or another, it's kind of like the Nick Foles thing with me. I can't imagine anybody being able to repeat that.
Well, I would agree. I mean, the Broncos could win that division probably 11-5. But I think the Chargers are much improved. We're going to put Reed's feet to the fire to see if Kansas City's going to show up again. The Raiders, terrible.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
they're going to continue to be bottom dwellers.
Yeah.
But I think those three teams
San Diego's
hate
going
each other,
anywhere
and
until Rivers is gone.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. I don't know. I think they actually had some luck out there, and isn't their OC? Who's their OC?
Their head
out
coach
there?
was the former offensive coordinator in Denver, McCoy. Mike McCoy knows the Broncos as the head coach of the Chargers.
And
so.
I think we'll see. I think the Broncos still can win that division, but I don't think they're doing it with 13 this year. I think 11 maybe they can do it.
I agree with what you said. I don't think they really do anything until Rivers is gone.
I don't think San Diego does.
I think you don't give Rivers enough credit.
I don't. I'm sorry.
He's a pretty decent quarterback.
He has everything.
Wow.
He's a decent quarterback.
I can't believe where people rank him, honest to God.
You know what? I find it hard to root for him because he's like Carson Palmer to me. When he's good, he's great. When he's terrible,
he's terrible.
When he's terrible, shoot that.
Right.
They shoot horses, don't
now,
they?
let me ask you something. Peyton Manning wins the Super Bowl last year, hypothetically, does he retire?
Does he retire?
Yeah.
Good question.
No, I don't think so.
I don't either.
I think he's going to retire when he can't do it anymore. That's what he said all along.
Okay.
When he doesn't have fun practicing, when he doesn't enjoy, waking up to prepare, that's when you're going to see him.
I thought if he would have won last year, he would have hung up. He would have hung it up.
If his physical decline,
he would have hung it up while his health was still good enough. I mean, he's gonna. I don't want to see him be one of those guys where he goes out and then he starts having problems and it affects his life after football.
It's not just effective. It was methodical at times.
Yeah, yes, it was. I mean, it was just like
it was like a freaking robot.
Well, the question is, no Sean Marino. Is he a bust? A lot of print out there that no Sean Marino is going to be a bust this year. Where is he? Miami now?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think you have to worry about Moreno so much. I think
in other words, he was the product. He was the product of a team and a system.
I agree.
Is he going to be no show again?
I also you guys.
I think you're right.
You guys know me well enough at this point. I've done 2 of these shows that I like. I go for the big 2. I go for the underdog players. Danny Woodhead goes to San Diego. It was great with the Patriots. Better with San Diego.
Yeah, they used him.
I'm kind of thinking.
Yeah. Well, that's what Rivers needed. He needed that type of a player out there.
And that's what I'm thinking, that if what you said, Phil Rivers is out of there, they go further. I don't know who's going to replace him.
Right.
But
to answer your question on Denver, if you think about what they've done in the offseason, they've improved the defensive side of the ball.
Yes,
they have to do.
They did that
to
compete. Address
their offensive side went downhill a little bit. They lost Decker. They lost Moreno, as Mark pointed out. They don't have Monty Ball. Is not the same player.
Ball has to prove something. He's going to get touches.
He's a running back, but he can't catch the ball in the backfield like Moreno.
No, not like Moreno.
And that might be the piece, the Danny Woodhead type piece that they might be missing this year.
I haven't done this yet.
Which may cost them 2 or 3 wins, as you said, 11-5, 10-6.
Off topic again. I haven't done it. Eric Decker, how's he do this year?
That's going to be a circus in the Jets, just like
they
think. I guess they think they can go to the supermarket and buy a running back in Chris Johnson,
to see
buy Decker, buy Michael Vick, and all of a sudden it's going to work.
Interesting to see what.
I haven't really been fired up for the whole show. I just pulled that out.
What Vick does up there, that's going to be interesting. It's certainly going back to our original topic, and that was coaches on hot seats and what have you. It goes right back to Rex Ryan's got to be the guy, I guess, on the hot seat. They're changing the whole team over, and he's in the last year of his contract.
If they don't finish with a winning record, he's out. If they're terrible by midseason, he's out. I really think he's.
I think it could be midseason.
It could be, but they very rarely change the coaches in NFL.
Who wants that job?
Well, yeah, the interim. Nobody wants the interim. That's very rare.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, Kubiak last year was an exception. I don't know what that happened. I mean, the fact that Mike Shanahan was allowed to finish the season, and play the games with Kirk Cousins as a starter,
Hey, I like Kirk Cousins.
I'm not saying he didn't, but I mean, you got RG3 there who's healthy, and you're just not playing him. I mean, that goes to the whole competitive advantage of the league. I mean, are you trying to tank
to win the game?
Exactly.
Right,
That's exactly my point.
Or you play to get fired.
Yeah, he was playing to collect 2 checks this year. Let's get that straight.
Yeah, I've sabotaged
always the case. We could talk for hours and hours, and we could just keep going. Wow, that's a nice big guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to keep him over there, please. Thank you. Let me throw a couple of quick shout-outs real fast. Don't forget our good friends over at CLW83.com, Jim and Carl over there. Check out all of their programming, their sports programming, and other programming that they have as well over at CLW83.com. And I know that our good friend Chris down in Baltimore is going to love getting this one because this one is just so much fun to listen to. It's just chatting football. That's all we do on this particular show, twice a year, preseason and at the end of the season as well. Chris is going to love this one over at Herb FM Sports Radio.
This one's always better though because we get to sit outside.
Exactly. It's comfortable. And it's the beginning of the season. We're not talking about the end, which is always, that's kind of, depressing. But
True.
Herb FM Sports Radio, check them out, herbfm.com. Check out all of their programming. College football coming up for them shortly in their programming. Live college football over on Herb FM Sports Radio. Wow. Wonderful stuff, guys. All right, gentlemen, thank you very, very much. I love doing this one. And as usual, I think we put together another great product. Again, we didn't get to everything, but hey, well, that's what the other shows are for. Make sure you're checking us out there. Also, check us out on Facebook, all right? Get over to our Facebook page and give us a like there as well. Frat House Sports and our website, frathousesports.net. All right. We there? We're there.
We're there.
You know what you got to do.
We're ready for football. We're ready for football, and we're ready for you to do one more thing for me, and that is you got to keep us real, you got to keep us live, and you got to keep us going. We'll see you next week.
Sometimes it just comes out. It's a little, camera excited. Frat House Sports. Very good choice. Low calories. You have a wedding coming up.
No.
You have to look slim and trim. Then it's just. Are we going to talk about football players?
We are. Yeah.
In the tight pants.
Oh, stop. Oh, stop it.
Oh my God.
That yummy Tom Brady. You know who I miss?
Uh-oh.
That Aaron Hernandez. Boy, did he just get my fire going. Oh.
All that ink.
Oh, God. He could shoot me anytime.
Oh, no.
Oh, golly.
Oh, no.
Should I switch to Aaron Hernandez?
Oh, God, yes,
Gronk?
please.
Only sidekicks weren't it on camera.
Oh, sidekick. He's another one. That yummy man. I just love watching him fight. Oh. Where is he?
Oh, God.
That bad. Settle down, production assistant. It's fine.